Brisbane has got a really interesting question. With Kourtney Kardashian recently discussing her placenta pills, I get the impression that everybody's doing it just because it's the cool thing to do. And to be completely honest, it feels like cannibalism to me. What's the point, and is there any real benefit? All right, Kylie, I must get asked this question at least 3 or 4 times a week. So let me start off by saying this. I'm not really big for celebrity plugs, and I'm not really big for, basically a celebrity saying something is cool, so everyone's got to do it. But placenta consumption has always been associated with crunchy, hippie, natural mamas who don't wear deodorant. And I thought it was really interesting that Kourtney Kardashian, who's really part of the celebrity circle mainstream, endorsed something like this. And I got a ton of inquiries as a result and lots of questions. And if for anything but a healthy discussion, I'm glad that she spoke about it so that the mainstream parents or moms could kind of understand why the rest of us do it too. Secondly, cannibalism is actually factually inaccurate. So for the sake of not repeating myself 20 times, although there is a maternal component to the placenta, it's actually derived from a fertilized egg. And this kind of brings us into thinking about hypothetical scenarios and reasoning and where our mind wanders. So whether it's ethical objections or you're vegan or you're vegetarian, I have people from all these walks of life consuming their placentas for the physical and biological benefits. Consider this. If you considered eating your placenta cannibalism, well then would you also consider eating semen cannibalism? And I know it's an extreme thought, but this kind of gives you an idea of how your mind exercises and where it goes when it's reasoning, whether something's acceptable or whether it's not. Anyways, sounds a bit dramatic, but just some food for thought. Thanks for your question, Kylie. Tara in Vancouver, beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Hi, womb warrior. My husband just loves my full breasts and belly in pregnancy. Seems he cannot get enough. I, on the other hand, feel no sexual urges whatsoever. I don't want to offend or hurt my hubby's feelings. What's wrong with me? Tara, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm gonna take this back to my own experience because it sounds so much like me. Prior to having a baby, I must have been the, most perverted person I know, and my husband fell in love with me for it, I'm sure. But after pregnancy and after having a baby, my libido seemed to have completely dropped. And quite often he was asking me, where did my vixen go? Where is she? Bring her back. And I was plagued with this guilt constantly. I felt bad that I wasn't able to, please him and all of these really ridiculous things that he probably wasn't even thinking about. With this pregnancy, my libido is gone. I feel like a nun in the 18th century. I have absolutely no urges whatsoever, which is completely unlike me. And I've basically in the exact same situation. I was very honest with my husband. We tried to communicate why I'm feeling this way and how it's absolutely no reflection on him or the feelings I have for him. Let me just say this. There's no textbook answer. All you can really do is be true to yourself, love yourself, and be gentle on yourself, mama. Your hubby, your partner, whoever they are, they love you, and they're not thinking anything that you think they are thinking. And they're definitely not trying to guilt you into being intimate. Spend lots of time, having affectionate time, holding hands on the couch, or going for lovely walks, or sharing a cup of tea. There's other ways to be intimate. I just really suggest don't making yourself feel guilty in this vulnerable time because you do not need it. Libido is such a tricky thing in pregnancy and following birth. Hormonally, physically, you have all of this extra blood flow, so it can either go one really good way where you're up and at it and always up for it, or the other way where you're managing a home and taking care of a toddler and breastfeeding and you don't feel in the mood whatsoever. You don't need to answer to anybody, just really keep an open communication with your lover and I'm sure they'll understand. Your libido will come back, just give it some time. Thanks for your question. Robin from Kalgoorlie asks, I don't understand women who free birth. If you have access to hospital and modern amenities, then why in the world would you choose to birth unassisted? Robin, I think I'll start this off by saying that, woman to woman, it's really important that we do not judge another woman and what she does in any circumstance unless we can fully understand the reasons she's doing it. And even then, it's not our place to judge. So before I continue this question, I'd really like to emphasize how important it is to respect and support and hold each other up in whatever we decide to do. Because if we don't have each other, we don't have anyone. It's just a little side note. Secondly, I think it's also important to discuss that not all women have access to healthcare, hospitals, midwives, birth centers, because of reasons like, distance in far-off regional areas, or logistics being too far away from a hospital, or being out of an area of catchment for a midwife. Home birth midwives, it's not an accessible reality for lots of women around this country. Some people just can't afford it, full stop. It's not an expense that they can afford to make. And now for the people who choose it intentionally, there's a lot more to it than you would think. Whether it's for autonomy, for freedom, comfort, being in your own home, bringing a child into an environment where the germs and antibodies are of your own and of nobody else's, for reasons like intimacy, or, physical, emotional, spiritual safety of the baby and yourself. There's a lot more depth to it than you would imagine. The women that I've met in the unassisted childbirth community are some of the most educated, well-prepared people that I know. And they come from all walks of life, and they study things like postpartum hemorrhage and shoulder dystocia and all of these different things to make sure that they're as prepared as possible for what happens. Of course, birth is the most unpredictable thing that happens to us as women. It's really important to just leave that reality that anything can happen. But stop it with these preconceived notions that anyone who free births is this negligent, irresponsible, crazy jerk who endangers their families and their children only to validate their ideals. That could not be further from the truth. Look into it. It's really worth, reading into and understanding the why behind it, and not the, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. Thank you for your question, Robin.